Dark Souls, my beloved. After getting through the customary 7 Finnish afterwinters with a living sponge of a lap-hunt puppy, I felt a sudden urge to immerse myself in the darkness of Lordran one last time before the increasing spring sunlight made everything outside all summery and awful. With each day consisting of consecutive dog-related challenges of varying magnitudes, I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew in the game. Aiming for a mild to medium amount of pain, I set myself an alarmingly casual rule: winged spear only. My first idea was to replicate my first ever newbie build from my save forever stuck in Anor Londo, but unfortunately I'd already cleaned up that mess. So, I resorted to using only the main weapon I stuck with the first time. With no limitations on buffing spells or armor, I embarked on my journey to become the #1 winged spear enjoyer in Lordran. After the mandatory Asylum tutorial, I acquired my long and pointy life insurance stick from a local second-hand market. To ensure that said stick kept me relatively not dead, my first mission was to upgrade it with 9 Titanite charge to +5. To simplify the small jungle of weapon upgrades in this game, usually the best damage in the long run is achieved by standard physical reinforcement with normal Titanite, which goes up to +15. This is 9 shards, 9 large shards, 7 chunks and 1 slab in total for us, and also 2 ember items need to be found to unlock the upgrade tiers. Standard reinforcement is usually the best solution for any situation with the highest strength and dex scalings of the available options, and quite the no-brainer choice for this run as well. I opened the usual shortcuts and picked up the valuables on the way to my man Andre, and after some manual labor, I exchanged my measly inflation-eating savings to a +5 winged spear. I got the RTR and proceeded to plunge my newly sharpened winged spear into the forehead of the Taurus demon. After cleaning up my tool of the trade from the Taurusi's brain matter, I kicked the ladder down to Undead Parish and ran a few quick laps of Grill and Shield to amass the small fortune needed for my favorite Teletubbyland door key. Feeling relieved about not having to ride the train this run around, I sneaked to Sif's arena to borrow the crit boosting Hornet Ring without the big floofer noticing. In my hubris, I got humbled in the nearby forest more than twice by the native flora and fauna and decided to head for the first bell. Still quite salty about the previous time Lordrak did me dirty, I made sure to release him from his cell before climbing to the rooftop. After a couple of solid attempts of showing the winged spear to the winged beasts, the gargoyles were eventually defeated and the first bell rang. To get more juice for my trusty spear, the next target was getting into depths via Lower Undead Berg. I spent some quality time with the local dogs before shutting down Capra, which was much easier this time around. In the depths there was a culinary experience waiting for me, the only downside being that I was the main course. Politely saying non merci in French, I took the large ember for spear reinforcement and released Lori from being a dessert. I returned to Firelink, received Lori's warm red hand as thanks, and had a surprising work environment accident happen to Lordrak.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
I headed back to the tutorial area by role-playing an egg, and then proceeded to rip off the blatantly clueless Knuckly the Crow of any useful goodies. I ran to get the water treading ring before bouncing. Next up was the pilgrimage to the promised swamp of mud and insects, Blighttown. I had a few important matters to attend to, firstly accessing the Great Hollow bonfire and acquiring the Chloranthy ring. As I'd managed without a shield this far, I thought I'd keep it that way to avoid completely succumbing to casualness. Thus, I needed the much needed stamina regen that I couldn't get with the Grass Crest shield. I was quite dumbfounded when a nearby crystal lizard I sent flying dropped the rarest upgrade material, a Titanite slab, which I actually needed for the spear. Very nice. I also required some large shards that I could farm from the slimy swamp inhabitants and find laying around. After gathering enough of them, and with great trouble as always, I climbed to the wall hugger to get power within and kamikaze the firekeeper soul before returning to Andre. With the large ember, the number after my winged pointy object of general punishment was +10. The last obstacle between me and the maxed out winged spear was the very large ember tucked away in New Londo. By all intents and purposes, it was officially ghost busting time. After popping a transient curse and giving a whole bunch of restless dead a good old poke, I kicked down a small shortcut ladder and arrived at the generic hardstyle party house. I needed to reach the dude chilling on the roof, but the moment I stepped into the building, my ghost-busting spree turned into a ghost-busting me fiasco.
Ei vittu.
With a mildly alarming amount of trial and error, and a few impromptu flights down the stairs, the path to the top finally opened up, and I got to buddy up with the dude taking a breather from the party. With the key to the seal in hand, I unclogged the drain and snagged a very large ember. After delivering the ember to Andre, I had the materials to get my spear to +12, the rest would have to wait a tad longer. With the winged spear steadfast in my hands, I headed back to the mud fields to face Quailag. Before that, there was the usual showdown with Mrs. Mandred, and I got the bonfire kindled. I tried to wing it with the Magma Spider Maiden with help of Power Within and Gold Pine Resin. After 2 unfortunate and fatal mishaps, the gatekeeper lady yielded and I continued to ring the second bell. The gates to the fortress of Who the Hell is Zen opened, and I was quickly knee-deep in confiscating any illegal Titanite chunks from the poor workers of the Boulder factory. I made quick work out of the Iron Golem and left to the other side of the wall for higher standards for living in central Lonor Ando. Once there, I got a hold of a nicely topical headpiece and promptly demonstrated why spears are the #1 tool for scaffolding climbers. With the accumulated momentum from the cathedral, I kept the ball rolling and quite miraculously made it to the palace bonfire in one go. With every loose Titanite chunk acquired, I was still 1 chunk short from maxing out my spear. Fortunately, the 2 big fellows inside the palace have a hefty 16% chance of dropping a chunk, so I got to work.
Come on. Eikä. Ei. Ui, siinä se... We got it!
+15 winged spear unlocked. For the ONS bros, my plan was to take Smo down first to snag the counter-attack buffing Leo ring from Ornstein. Having forgotten to pay a visit to Pinwheel, I decided to test the waters with the gold-clad tag team with the limited 10 Estus at my disposal. I was thrilled to reach the second phase of the fight, but I ran out of Estus and had to retreat to retrieve the Rites of Kindling for the more generous sips before trying again. After the brisk marathon and a half, I had the Estus I needed and Pinwheel's mockery of a boss fight under wraps. Time to die, punks. With my Yanagi sharp winged warhead of a spear, I flew at Smo like a bat out of hell. The level of unfiltered aggression surprised the bloated executioner and myself a little as well, resulting in the Goliath succumbing to the pressure in record time.
Okay.
After absorbing whatever Trenbolone supplements his colleague was on, Ornsteiner's power fantasy became a reality and the techno started to play. With minimal experience fighting Big Ornstein, landing a good hit without getting punished was quite the hassle. Luckily, I had more than enough Estus to spare and managed to avoid any major fuck-ups. And wouldn't you know it, the sharper spear got the W, and with the Leo ring in my pocket, I averted my gaze down from the divine pair of curtains behind the illusion of a princess while being handled the Lord Teleporter. Time to run some errands. As my +15 tool of destruction had now ascended to mortal realm, I made a quick detour to dispose of some loose optional bosses left behind. The wrong end of the spear was shown to the basement meatball, the light butter moonfly, Shift the Floofer, and Chompy McBiteface. I booked the tickets to ski resort Ariamis and was thoroughly thrilled with the complimentary cartwheel yoga / massage class in the luxurious spa area. Before heading out, I took Priscilla out to dinner for some winged shish kebabs, but it turned out she was a vegan. Such a shame. Returning to the parish of Lordran, I thought it'd be good time to squash the hocus pocus boy lurking in the long ass hallway. Widely presumptuous, I was prepared to get the mockery of a fight out of the way in one try, but as arrogance is the mother of all Dark Souls fuck-ups, it was due time for me to suffer the consequences.
Dude. Yes. Ooh. Sisti.
Unmistakably humbled, I left the Shining City after relieving the frustrated firekeeper of her duties. My expectations for easily getting the Lord Souls were quite high, given that I could employ any and all cheesing tactics enabled by the use of a melee weapon. After clearing out the archives, I equipped the Cursebite ring for safety before confronting Seath. It didn't take long for me to realize the easy, albeit rather inglorious way of dealing with him. Wait for him to laser, fix the bayonet while waiting for the curse toss to disintegrate, and go for a quick single stabby before cowering back away and rinsing and repeating. Onwards to the lava fields. This run, I had no rest from the gimmick bosses, as the giant fiery prawn dude turned me to ash instantly after aggroing. The nuisance didn't end there. His mood was indeed so crabby that he took me hostage by spamming his wonderful chili shrimp cannon from afar. Perhaps the first time I ever finished a dude without using the gimmick, so that's that. Encountering my favorite meatball man, the go-to strat was once again abusing the butt slam spam. Of course, being a spear in my side, Fire Sage needed some convincing, and I had to pay blood sacrifices more than once to accomplish the deed. The third boss in quick succession, Centipede McNuggets, had clearly been practicing long-range spam with the prawn guy. After playing cat and mouse for so long that the crustacean was finally on solid ground, I did the stabby thing a few times and got the lava walking ring for just that purpose. There was no way for me to avoid the next part of the game, so I borrowed a welding helmet IRL to protect my eyes from melting from the brightness of the lava lake. Quickly getting into Lost Isolith proper, I deleted the copy-pasted assets with single strong attacks and got to open the runway for a heavily emphasized shortcut. Bit of chaos time, baby! With fond but not yet golden memories from the previous occasion, I opted to try the left side first this time. With the floor still carrying weight, the first route was easily accessible. With a serious stroke of luck, I managed to tumble my way back middle and surprisingly all the way to the other side.
Look at the moves, Baker! What was
Even
that?
though quickly after I was fly-sweaty to my demise, it only took one additional run back to get the job done. Very nice indeed. Down at the Dark Downerland, all the practice from all Pyro run paid decent dividends, and with the weapon as strong as my winged spear, the kings fell one by one without much they could do against me.
Nice.
For the last Lord Soul, I encountered Skelly Nido and his clunky lackeys. Now, this battle took quite a bit more effort compared to last time. Much to the theme of the run, Nido indulged himself with repeated long-range poke that proved stupendously awkward to dodge. Usually, you just hear the delightful cue before the Gravelord Greatsword from below impales you while also applying toxic, and the long delay after the cue is kinda hard to adjust to. I got my ass handed to me several times by the Bone Bros before getting the upper hand with the tip of my winged spear.
Oh, you did.
all Lord's souls in the bank, and finally, the last and most challenging stretch left in the run. Setbacks didn't end with the Sanctuary Guardian, as I had some issues with the Chimera speed at first. Luckily, the not-so-tanky beast was easily toppled with consecutive thrusts, and after a banger stagger, I got the W home. Artie provided the usual gatekeeping experience and required a couple attempts as well before getting my Get Good meter to the required level for beating him, and hopefully the last 2 DLC bosses. Surprisingly, I got invaded by the Bloodborne dude and almost crumbled to his fancy throwables and Avalyn bolts, but managed to handle the weave accordingly. With the proper setup, I found myself against the old Pyro Run nemesis, Dick Lizard Calamite. Here, the hours of practice definitely helped, and with the luxury of having full HP and quite the killy spear, I could whittle the menace down to 0 HP on the first try.
Okay. Give me something difficult.
Now, if the previous run was the first time Menace experience, this was part 2, Electric Melee Boogaloo. With the range limitation of my winged spear, I was quite a lot more susceptible to Big M's offensive repertoire. This meant that the timings I got down in the Pyro Run needed to be adjusted to keep me from getting beat to a pulp, and this naturally took a good number of repetitions. Luckily, staying close meant somewhat fewer magic attacks, which were difficult to deal with without a shield. With every iteration, I got his health bar lower, and eventually the primeval dude succumbed to the winged spear.
Se on siinä. Let's fucking go. Let's go.
I set my sights to the kiln of the first flame to end the era of winged spear dominance with a blast. Having run the dusty trail to the kiln more than enough times, I knew not to underestimate the Lord of Sunlight. I dug in my heels and started the iterative process to lay the Lord to rest and finish the run. First, I tried the basic parry riposte damage and caught the leap attack parry window. With just the Hornet Ring, my damage was far from desirable, and after some tries, I started using the Power Within plus RTR cheese to get by with the least amount of necessary parries. With the high risk, high reward approach, the former was realized quite often after the first successful riposte. The enormous damage luckily meant that 2 to 3 ripostes were sufficient to end the run, depending on whether I could maintain the buff requisites after the first parry.
Ei vittu, ei ihan riittänyt.
Finally, after the honorable amount of assisted greatsword sudokus, I aligned my timings neatly between Gwyn's tight margins and carefully injected my winged instrument through his rotten bowels just the right number of times.
Se on siinä. Siellä. Ylämummo.
To conclude my journey, I embraced who I'd become and found my place among the filthy casual backseat gamers in the darkest of basements for the rest of eternity. Thanks for watching all the way through. Gotta say that while this wasn't exactly a challenge, it was still easy for me to enjoy the ride. Not everything needs to be super difficult or rewarding, and to me, seeing how easy most of the parts in the game have become is kinda rewarding in itself. But yeah, maybe there are still interesting and challenging ways for me to witness Lordran and make content about it in the future. After this video is done, I'm planning on switching to Linux due to Windows 10 support ending later this year. So regarding future videos, I guess I'll have to get accustomed to some new software as well as the new OS. But actually I'm quite thrilled in optimizing my PC a bit and be free from the Windows bloat. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, until next time.